This video is sponsored by My Metal Cards at Etsy.com. So yes, this is a new upcoming shop which specializes in selling like a lot of metal cards, so hence the name. So it ranges and specializes in like a lot of games such as Cardfight Vanguard, MTG, and Warhammer. So in this case, if you see here for Vanguard, they have energy counters for every nation. There's also like treasure tokens for MTG. There's also like plenty other designs for Vanguard, such as like fated ones. There's also like nation ones, and also it comes with acrylic ones. It's more transparent acrylic ones, so that's pretty cool. If you want to get one of these, that's also nice. And also there's plenty of other designs which are not in this shop, but you can custom pre-order them. You can like order them customly, such as like my Chronojet black and white energy counter, which is like 0 to 10. There's also like black and white like nation cards such as like Blangdmire, which I have over here, and also like they have like IoT energy like energy markers, energy counters, which I have like all three, like bronze, silver, gold respectively. So that's about it. And also, if you go to this shop and have the code coupon code Enochsays, 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 you get $5 off for your first purchase of one of these metal cards as well. So Enochsays, ENOCHSAYS, for $5 off for your first purchase. And do check them out. There's plenty of designs, and you can use them to spicify your decks, make it bling, make it fancy. Do keep in mind that since these are custom-made energy markers or whatsoever, counters or whatsoever, you cannot use them in like official Bushiroad tournaments. But you can use them as a form of like collection or whatsoever. And there you go. Just pick one of these up, and hopefully you like them. I like it personally, so do give them the support. And that's about it. I'll see you in the next video.
Alright everyone, it's Professor Enoch095 back with another deck profile. So this time now we'll be doing Fated 1 of 0, Blangdmire, 0 de Unesha. So Fated 1 of 0, Blangdmire. So this is a new Fated 1 in set 2, which was released like last month in April. I only get my hands on it like 2 weeks ago, I think, at this point. So it is technically a very fun deck. So for me personally, this is not super meta. I think it's like tier A, around like 1.5, like that. It is strong, but it has its pros, it has its weakness, and that like so technically Blangdmire does filter a lot. In one sense, it powers up the center column, which is nice. But the thing is that like the other rearguard columns is like pretty small. It's like guardable numbers. And also you tend to, if you drag the long game, and this is the problem with Blangdmire sometimes, is that like if you cannot play the long game. If you drag too long, Blangdmire will definitely deck out. Insane draw engine, insane filter amounts of filter in this deck, thanks to certain key cards in your right line as well. I would say also like against like very big numbers, decks with like huge numbers, you tend to struggle a little bit. Not that it's not impossible, but you do struggle with decks that have that can reach like big numbers like Zorga, Shamot, etc. Right? So this is technically like Blangdmire does. So which, if you watch the anime, this is like Suo's main Vanguard main deck. And also partially like the best thing about this deck is about Blangdmire is that he also does a lot of like control as well, unlike some of the dark states, because there's not many dark states that can play control. Like, I mean, there are certain cards in some dark states decks that can actually like retire, for example like Gridon, Mikani in Chaos, Chronojet bot deck. So that's one form of like control, but this one consistently controls if you know how to like control your soul, etc. and whatnot, right? So yeah, so of course, being a Fated 1, you also have the Divine skill, which is like a skill that you can use like once per game, etc. Right? So not to mention that since like Blangdmire is like I would say like it's not really in this kind of like impossible to tag in some other Dark States deck. So let me give you an example, right? So Reza L is a very generic skill that you can play in decks like Tegria. You can play this in what else? What else that uses Rezael? You can play this in Saraspiel, you can play this in any other Keta decks especially, but not Luwak, especially. One-off. Vagra is also does the same thing, you can play that in Overlord, you can play this in Gryandora, etc, right? But Blangdmire, alongside with Fiastra, is like one of the few cards in the divine skills is that they really, the central playstyle is just revolves around them and nothing else, right? So this is because it needs you to have like bind down face down cards, or face down bind cards. So that's the difficult part of it, achievable, which is not achievable in the other Dark States deck, right? So anyways, let's get straight into the deck profile. But before that, if you do like my content over here in this channel, please do hit like and subscribe and stay tuned for more. So without further ado, let's get straight into the right line. Of course, we have the Grade 0 over here. So this is Cavity Malagia. So it's a very generic D starter skill, is that when this unit is being rolled upon, if you win second, draw one. So pretty self-explanatory. For Grade 1, we have Holo Raptor. So Holo Raptor skill is that when this unit is rolled by Beacon Fang, which is a Grade 2, you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and put all Grade 1 or greater cards into your soul, and then the rest of the bot deck. And then if you put 2 or more, you get to draw 1. So like I said, if it filters out your normal units, and then it allows you to draw, which is pretty cool. So that's Holo Raptor. And then after that, we have Weaken Fang. So it kind of does the same thing as Holo Raptor, but instead this skill is that when this unit is rolled by a grade 3 Blangdmire in its card name, you also do the same thing where you reveal the top 3 and then you shuffle all the grade 1 or greater units into your soul, and then you shuffle your deck. So this one shuffles Holo Raptor bot deck. So you can shuffle back your triggers. This one bot decks your like other triggers or any other order cards. Not order cards, like especially like triggers. Like I think it's like triggers is the most important part. Again, if you put 2 or more into your soul, you get to draw 1, which is nice and insane. Last but not least, we are going into the ace of this Vanguard, which is Zero no Unmesha Blangdmire. So Fated 1 of 0 Blangdmire. The skill is that when Auto Vanguard skill, when this unit attacks, you choose 2 cards, 2 or more greater cards from your soul. 2 or more cards from your soul up to the total of 4 cards and bind it face down, and you may draw 1, right? So it allows you to, they'll give you a choice whether you want to draw or not. And if you bind 4 or more face down, your opponent has to choose 2 of their rear guards and bind it face down, and for every 2 cards in your face down bind zones, this unit plus 5k until the end of the battle. So for example, if Blangdmire swings first, like on this grade 3, beginning of the grade 3 turn, you can swing, you can bind 4 face down. Essentially for every 2 is gonna be plus 5, so like you bind 4, that's basically like 20k, so 10k technically, so he's gonna be 23k on your first grade 3 turn, which is insane. And also if you combine with your booster Evoker Alchemist, he can already swing for 38k on your first grade 3 turn, which is super nice. And not to mention that he can bind face down, and which procs the divine skill and also tries to like control your opponent's board as well. So that's one thing. The second skill is the divine skill, which is the skill that you can only use like once per game. Guardian Circle Vanguard. Well, at the beginning of the guard step that this unit attacks, if you have 4 or more, if you have 8 or more face down cards in your bind zone, during this turn, you may have this unit plus 1 crit, and during this turn, your opponent cannot play Sentinels or play cannot call or play Blitz orders with Sentinel abilities, meaning that it will block all the PGs and like Elementary Sanctitude, which is super crazy. And you choose one of your opponent's Vanguard, and till the end of the opponent's next turn, they will lose all the abilities, as in like nullify. It's not like technically losing it, but technically speaking, is if you decide to use divine skill and you can have, and if you have 8 or more face down cards, so technically speaking that would be like 5, 10, 15, 20. So on a persona turn, it's going to be like a 33-43 on its own, and he has a double crit, and your opponent basically cannot just use PG. So basically they have to hard guard or whole thing, right? And if you have Evoker Alchemist, 43 plus 15 is going to be like 58 or 68 along those numbers, so which is a very huge number. And if your opponent doesn't have an OT in hand, or doesn't have much triggers, your basically is a Q turn, is like basically an OTK deck, right? So basically it's an OTK turn, so which is quite nice. And yeah, that's what he does. And it's there's like a lot of like different rulings about like how what Blangdmire does is that like when you just technically nullify all of their your vanguards, your opponent's vanguard's ability, meaning that if they did not roll during the next turn, if they didn't really persona the next turn, it's basically a vanilla deck, vanilla vanguard with only one drive check, right? So so that is like pretty cool as well, because it kind of like blocks like it kind of like slow down your opponent's like strategies in one turn. And if they can't persona road next turn, it's basically GG, game over for them. So that's about it. It's a very long ruling when it comes to Blangdmire, so I think I'll leave it to you guys to like analyze it. I think like there are some other content creators that actually go into extensive length of what Blangdmire's like ruling about like nullifying the Vanguard's ability. So that's one thing. So let's get to the main deck. Of course, we are going to talk about Blangdmire, which is like there's 3. Yeah, so of course this is a 3. This is like technically 4. You have to play 4, 1 in the main deck and 3 in the main deck. Personas are very important, because if you don't have persona, if you don't persona right, it's basically just all your numbers are basically guardable. Your opponents basically get able to guard all these numbers. So it's if you don't persona road during the next few turns, it's just gonna be a very weird number to play with. So of course there's definitely 3. Of course, the next thing here is the single strike Colossus, I think. So the Colossus skill is very interesting because it is a rare card actually. So auto Vanguard Circle, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have 4 or more face down bind zone cards during this turn, no, not during this turn. During this battle, you may give this unit plus 10k. If you do at the end of the battle, you move in this unit into your soul. And the second skill is that when this unit is put into the soul by your card's ability, if your Vanguard is Blangdmire, Grade 3 or greater Vanguard, if Blangdmire in this card name, you can bind this card face down and you could draw 1. So this is actually like your draw engine as well, and not to mention like he's your 23k beat stick. So definitely your 4 off, I wouldn't play less than that. So he's very important for you to like draw your cards, etc. Right? So that's about it. And then we have to play this Cage of Furista. I think this is the name of the order. So I play like technically like 4 orders, but this is the one order that I play. The skill is that Soul Charge 1 and choose one card, grade 3 or less, grade 3 or less card from your soul and call it to rearguard circle, and during this turn that you need plus 5k. So this is very important because like in terms of like doing your right lines, like if you're trying to shove in like cards into your soul, sometimes you might soul charge into your key cards like Zamuk, Valkracia, or your boosters like Evoker Alchemist. So this is one of the ways that you can try to like drag them out from your soul and give them plus 5k, which is very nice because you can get yourself an additional attacker without compromising your hand. So this is like one thing with this order, and you don't really have to worry about like slow charging your key cards, which means that you can always call it up no matter what, right? And also I play one Regardless Please, which is Gratis Gratel, of course. If you did not persona road during this turn, and if you have a grade 3 with persona right ability, and you can activate persona right, I think. Yeah, if you play this order, you can activate persona right, provided that if you didn't like persona road, or if you didn't like explicitly write this turn, and if your grade 3 is has a persona right icon, right? So of course, like I mentioned earlier, like persona right is very important in this deck. So you play one, and just for you to like reach big numbers, and so that your opponent has a hard time guarding. So that's about it. So for the grade 2s, you have Steam Raider Zamuk. Now Zamuk is of course definitely a 4 off. This is because this is Blangdmire's key card and an attacker, and he has a very amazing ability. So the skill is that when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Blangdmire in his card name, you counter blast 1 and you reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. and then you choose any number of them into your soul, and then you shuffle your deck. If you put one or more, you may draw one. So not only he gets to filter like the rideline does, you can also technically allows you to draw one as well, which is pretty nice. But what makes this card so good is that like it's a second skill is that when this unit attacks, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Blangdmire in this card name, and if this unit's critical is 1 or less, you energy blast 3, and during this battle this unit plus 5k 1 crit. So essentially Zamuk is basically a 15k 2 crit, and early game if you use it like on your group first grade 3 turn, you can basically just pressure your opponent to either like, and especially if you go first, I think this is the most amazing thing. Like, so Blangdmire is a deck that kind of really wants to go first, and so like if you have Zamuk and you have like enough energy to spare, you can always just swing for like 15k 2 crit, and you have an Evoker Alchemist in your back row to try to restun it and then swing again. It's gonna make your opponent try to like second guessing whether or not they want to take this damage, because obviously they will much more prefer to take the Vanguard's attack rather than take Zamuk's attack, which has 2 crits in it. So this is like pretty nice as well. Granted, if you check a critical trigger, you can't assign the crit effect to him, because otherwise he cannot proc the second skill with the crit, right? So it's important that if you check a trigger, you always power up. The power must give Zamuk, otherwise you give, and then the crit you give somewhere else, right? So yeah, Zamuk is definitely a 4-off. He's the best filter card and the best attacker card, right? So that's one thing. After that, we go to Servant Falcratia. Now, Servant Falcratia is technically I'll play 3 off, but even then, I won't use the last skill, because the last skill requires me to have the second skill requires me to have a grade 4 Vanguard, which I can put herself into the soul and draw one, but Blangdmire is not a grade 4, so I can't do that. However, Falcratia is a skill is that like when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater, when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater, if you choose one drop card, Dark States card in your drop zone, and then for every one of those grades you can have plus 5k, and then you move it into your soul. So which is kind of nice, because if you shove in a grade 3, she will be a 23k attacker. So essentially it kind of combos off with the Colossus. So if you discard the Colossus for like I would say like for riding up into the right deck, or if you want to like discard it for like PG cost or something, when you call for creation next turn, you can swing, you can shove in your Colossus, and then with Colossus skill you can always like bind face down and get to draw one, which is pretty nice. So there's like a little bit of combo here and there with Falcratia. So definitely I'll play 3, but I won't play 4. So I think like Falcratia is good. So she's also like a 25k attacker at best, right? So which is kind of nice. So I'll play Falcratia definitely. After that, for the next grade 2, I play Lemina. Lemina's skill is that when this unit is discarded from your hand during your right phase, you Soul Blast one and move herself to the bottom deck, and you get to draw one. So trying to like increase the draw engine. And the second skill is that when this unit is called to the rearguard circle from your hand, if you Persona Road during this turn, counter blast one, choose one card from your soul, call it to the rearguard circle, and you may sword charge one. So I think in most cases, I prefer Lemina over Tishkal. Not to say that Tishkal is bad, but like Tishkal requires you to have like energy blast, right? Which like Zamuk really needs to have like an energy blast tree. So I think I will need to use it. But other than that, like if you use Tishkal, you may need to use CB. But sometimes your opponent might deny you the CB, and sometimes you need the counter blast for Evoker Alchemist, which is the grade 1 booster to restart one of your rear guards. So I dare not to use her. I think like Lemina is much more better, because like you can always replenish your soul anytime soon because of your right line, and not to mention you have like other cards like Zamuk and Falcratia and the rest of the other cards that can actually like increase your soul. But not to mention that Lemina's best part is that like she can definitely use that one CB, and if you Persona Road, you can definitely use one of those kind of blasts to call out like attackers like Zamuk or Evoker or Falcratia or any other key cards that might be important for you. So I think like play 3 Lemina is pretty good enough. So that's my build. Moving on to the great ones, we have like the 3 PGs and 1 Elementaria Sanctitude, so the 1 Blades Order and 3 normal PGs, which allows the 3 effect PGs, which allows you to PG with if you have like 1 or less cards in your hand. So that's self-explanatory, I won't touch more on that. The next great one I'll be playing is like Evoker Alchemist. Now Evoker Alchemist is definitely 4-off, and he is Blangdmire's booster. So the first skill is that continuous regard. When this unit boosts, during the battle that this unit boosts, if you have a grade 3 of Vanguard Blangdmire in its card name, this is unit plus 5k, so he's a 13k booster as well. But if he is in the back row, if he when this unit boosts Blangdmire, grade 3 or greater Blangdmire Vanguard in his card name during this battle plus 2k. And if you have 4 or more face down cards in your bind zone, counterblast 1 and choose one of your front row rear guards stand it, and if it's 8 or more, the stand unit plus 15k, right? So which is pretty amazing, because not only that he's the 13k, but like in like the rest of the other columns, but if he's in the middle column, essentially he's a 15k booster. And not to mention that CB to restand all of your rear guards is pretty amazing, which means that you can always use this to combo with Zamuk, which means Zamuk can swing 15k 2 crit every battle. So like you can basically proc twice per turn if you when you boost with Evoker Alchemist, right? So definitely 4 off. I don't see people playing 3, because like the CB1 to restand 1 rear guard is definitely cool. So this kind of like technically makes Blangdmire 4 attack deck, so which is quite nice. So that's about it for Evoker Alchemist. And then for the next great ones, I play Brainwash Swirler. Now Swirler is very nice, very generic. I think some decks don't play it, but some decks do. But the skill is that like when this unit plays on Rearguard Circle, you get the Soul Charge 1, which means that you can help Blangdmire to increase the soul count for the bind skill. And then the second skill is that Auto Rearguard Circle, when this unit when your card is have a soul charge, when your card is like moved into your soul by a soul charge ability, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, that's unit plus 5k, and it's kind of like stacked. So if you soul charge 2, he gets a 10k, so which is nice. So it kind of combos well with the order card, this grade 3 order card. So again, you don't technically soul charge per se, because like the only things that helps you to soul charge is this one, and the R-Beam as well, but we get to R-Beam later on. So of course, you can, in certain games, I find myself pretty useful if, like, say that I have 2 swirlers and you can pump this number to 18k, and if you have this order in hand, you can soul charge 1 more, essentially making me a 23k booster as well, so, or like a 23k attacker, so which is pretty nice. So definitely play 3 Brainwash. Some you can play 4, some people play 4. I personally play 3 because I want to make room for the rest of for the deck. But I think like 3 is pretty good enough. So that's about it. The last but not least, I think I have like at least like 1 more great ones. I think like yeah, I think this is the last great one. Okay, so this is a Steam Artist R-Wim. So R-Wim skill is that like when this unit is placed on Rearguard Circle, you may soul charge 1. You have to soul charge 1, yeah. And if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater with Blangdmire name instead of soul charging 1, you may look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You look at the top 2 cards of your deck, you can choose up to 2 of them and move it into your soul, and then you shuffle your deck. So which is nice because you can either choose to whether or not you want to soul charge, or you can have a look top 2 and then want to soul or all of them into your soul, and if not, then you can shuffle your deck afterwards. So it's pretty useful. It's because he also technically filters. Because if you look top 2 cards and then all of them are triggers, you can make sure that you have like at least like 2 triggers to check. And if not, if they are all normal units or like order cards, you can shove it into your soul, thereby helps you to increase Blangdmire soul count, and you don't have to do anything about it. So which is pretty nice. So R-Beam is kind of like good, but he's not super good, and the reason why I say so and why I play 2 copies is because of his second skill. Is because it's the second skill is a auto skill, which is in the back row Rearguard Circle. At the end of the turn, if your Vanguard with Blangdmire in its card name has activated a divine skill, increase a critical with this divine skill, at you retire himself, you draw 1, and then Konotani, if you do not retire the same name in this turn, like anything than him, like same name as himself this turn, until the end of your opponent's next turn, your opponent gets at the beginning of the right phase, your opponent may discard a card from their hand, and if they do not, they cannot write nor strike. So the second skill is definitely very conditional, is that if Blangdmire increases the critical trigger from their own divine skill, and if you he has to retire himself and you draw one, and if you did not retire this anything with the same name as him, he basically essentially forces your opponent to technically either discard one to Persona Ride or to strike. If not, you don't get to do anything. So it's really it's kind of like a little bit I would say like iffy and dangerous for like your opponent that doesn't have like Persona Ride in their hands. But sometimes the most of the time you will find your opponent definitely has a copy of Persona Ride in their hand, or definitely they can strike. But in the worst case scenario that they do not have, I think this is the best examples of like not to ride or not to strike, right? So technically like you can just like basically just like cock lock them for one turn and call it a day, right? So just make the deck vanilla for that one whole turn. So which is good, but I think like 2 is enough. Some people play 3. I used to play 3, but like I say, like 2 is enough, I think. But I definitely can arrange the numbers because sometimes like Arim is somewhat important but not too important, and that's about it, right? Moving on to my triggers, we will definitely play 4 crits. You can play 8 crits, right? So you can substitute like one of these crits as an effect crit because you want to definitely increase your soul count. So definitely if you have effect critical triggers, you can play those, play 4 of those. Otherwise, if you want to be very budget, I think you can play vanilla crits. It doesn't really matter to me, honestly speaking, because like I don't find myself using the criticals to call it out and effect crits to just use it anyways in this game, in this deck. So that's one thing. Of course, I play fronts, 3 fronts. Do not play draws because you will tend to deck out very fast. So fronts is okay, and not to mention he's a 20k shield, so definitely play fronts. Heals, 4 heals definitely. In this meta, you can always substitute for like 1 vanilla. Like you can play 2 vanillas and then like 1 anti-crit, 1 anti-restand because of like meta. Like judging by the meta right now with like Vagra, with Zoga that has like restanders and like critical gaining criticals, and Blangdmire also plays critical, so you can get yourself like a 1 anti-crit and 1 anti-restand. I think that's fine. For the OT, this deck I will play like the Dark States OT. So Dark States OT is, I would say, is good, but I think I would still be rather prefer like if you can play the yellow OT, which may be coming out for the festival booster. The yellow OT where you can technically like draw 1 card for every 2 of your opponent's empty rearguard circle and guardian circle. So definitely, and you can retire all of your opponent's guardians, making it easier for Blangdmire to like hit with your Vanguard with 2 crits. Otherwise, I think in a divine skill turn, or not a divine skill turn regardless, if you check Dark States OT, it is going to be a very, very dangerous setup there like this, because like you will be swinging 23k double crit every single turn, and provided since they cannot use PG, they have to hard guard. If you check at OT, this basically gives your Vanguard another crit. So essentially speaking, in a divine skill turn, if you check an OT, it's going to be like swinging you for like 3 crits, right? So which is pretty insane. So if you can push early with Blangdmire up to like 3 damage or 4 damage, and by the time you use the divine skill, they hard guard everything, and if you check the Dark States OT, it's basically just game over, right? So that's one thing. Other than that, I've seen people play the red OT as well, because since the whole turn you can't use Sentinel, 100 million swinging twice is also pretty difficult, very hard. Blue OT also does the same thing as the Dark States OT, because not only you can give the Vanguard +1 crit, but also you can power up to the rearguard circles to have another crit, to swing for 100 million, and you also get to bounce back like 1 card from your drop zone to your hand. So which is interesting, but I prefer if I could have like Dark States the OT this time round, because like Blangdmire can definitely swing for big numbers, and for divine skill turn, unless they have an OT and then can hard guard everything, I think like this is the best option that I can go with for the time being. But I think the rest of the deck, it's self-explanatory. You can always experiment with your ratios and whatnot. So for the time being, if there are some cards here that you don't find really like, I have a few alternatives for you. Let's go through the alternatives, shall we? So first things first, Mind Hacker. So this is a common card. So technically speaking, it's a skill that is on effect on Guardian Circle and Rearguard Circle. That is a continuous skill. If you have a Grade 3 or Greater Vanguard with Blangdmire in his card name, he gets a 5k power and a 5k shield. So essentially, he's a 10k shield and a 13k booster or attacker, right? So not many people can play Brainwash Swirler, so Mind Hacker is definitely very important for you to be like your Swirler replacement. In some turns, not granted, my Brainwash will always sit at the 8k vanilla if I don't soul charge anything. But if I have Mind Hacker, the 5k extra might help a lot, and not to mention that he has a 10k shield, which is really important for defense as well, because like defense is definitely important in Blangdmire. But again, Blangdmire kind of have like a very nice hand size, like 10 to 11 hand size every game, like every turn. So if you can manage to like increase the defense, I think it's still fine. So Mind Hacker is definitely one of the alternatives you can play. I've seen people play Expeller as well. So Expeller is a skill that when he attacks, you can soul charge one, and then the second skill is that on X in the soul, you can counter blast one, move him into the soul, and he gets to soul charge one and choose one of your vanguards plus 10k, which is nice because it means that you can power up your vanguard even more. You can give to soul charge, which means that you can proc Brainwash Swirler skill, which is nice. So 2 Expellers, 3 Expellers, I think I've seen people play that, but unfortunately I don't really want to play this, is because like sometimes I would say like the CB is kind of important in this deck. Because like I said earlier, people might deny you the CB. Counter charge is very scarce in this deck unless you play the cat. But you won't play the cat because most of the time I felt like the cat is because like once you bind the face down cards in your soul, especially in early game, you don't really have much chance to use the cat. So that I think like that's kind of bad. I would say like I would not play the cat. So yeah, so the last but not least, the alternative I have is technically Sargon. Of course, if I boost with Sargon, I can definitely give the Vanguard skill, like any skills on my boosted units to attack, hit, and then choose 2 cards from your soul and drop zone and move it into your soul, which is nice, which means that you can set up Blangdmire for more souls for the next turn or whatnot. I also think that with the new PR for Blangdmire coming up, which is the one that like I think what's the name of that guy, the Netherworld thingy, where like if you place a Rearguard Circle, if your Vanguard is Blangdmire, your opponents cannot intercept. That is also pretty nice, and also like when he boosts, he can choose 1 card from your drop zone and move it into your soul. I think that's pretty nice as well. But then again, I think I find that card pretty useless, because like blocking intercepts doesn't really mean much unless you're fighting Eva with like a lot of obscudates on their front row. So I would say like either like this, the Sargon and the other PR card that was just released like recently, I find it not too useful. I think there's always like better cards to play around them. So I felt like these are some like the great ones. I felt like it's pretty solid. But if you want to go for much more like budget options or like much cheaper options, if you don't have any Brainwash, I think like Mind Hacker, Expeller, I think they are all fine. They're all good options as well. And not to mention like Servant for Croatia has been reprinted in like the festival booster, so it's definitely all Gucci. And yeah, I think that's like some of the alternatives I can offer to you. So yeah, that's about it. So last final thoughts on this deck. So like I said earlier in this video, this is not a super meta deck, but it is a fun deck to play. I assure you it's a very fun deck to play. And you kind of annoy your opponent sometimes because of like their rear guards have to be bind face down and whatnot. Unless you're playing Armorta, which means that like they have a backup Armorta in their hand as their PGs, and they can always return like their bind zone cards. Most of the time, your opponent will have very less chances to get their key cards back, right? So you can exhaust them of their resources and whatnot. Against a Gandiva matchup is the most hilarious one that I've seen, because like you just help them to pump up more power the more that Blangdmire attacks or swings, right? So depending on matchups, you have to be like really careful what you're gonna do and all that stuff. So just to bear that in mind. But other than that, I find this deck like pretty solid. I find this deck like pretty fun to play. Initially, when I built this deck, I have like a lot of confusions because I've seen a lot of different playstyles with how people put draws in Blangdmire, how people play Falcate in Blangdmire, and etc. Right? So it is a lot of it is a process of trial and error when you want to build this deck. So of course, if this deck really fancies you, and if you feel like this deck actually like can assure you of OTK turn, play this like OTK gaming, I think Blangdmire is probably the best suited one for you. And that's about it. I think that I will end my back profile right here right now. So if you have any questions or if you have any like comments in the comment sections about this deck, you can always put it in the comment section down below. Try to like give your opinions on like what other things that I can play or like you would like to play, and you know, we can always cook this deck together. So we can be like a Blangdmire chefs for the time being, right? So I think that's about it. I'll see you guys on the next video. This has been Professor Inox 095 signing out. My throat is tired. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye. Whee!